Today I am showing you how I make my sushi temaki roll or hand roll. In keto, of course we don't eat rice, but there are many foods that we like or I like and requires rice as an Asian person. One of those things is like sushi. So I find that many of the recipes I find online for making keto sushi is rolling things in cream cheese or just plain lettuce. But I want to show you something that I think is the best replacement or best alternative right now. If you've watched my tofu rice, that will be our base. So the key is how we can turn the tofu rice into the fluffy tofu rice into the sushi rice that requires some stickiness. And also I will show you how to roll these sushi temaki roll. This is a great little project to do with your children if they're in school and they're homeschooling and need something to do. This is a fun thing to make together for a simple healthy lunch. So this is my setup. We have some water. I cut some julienne carrots and cucumber, also a little bit of scallion. I have some avocado, and for salmon, I don't have access to sushi grade salmon, so this is just smoked salmon and it's really tasty. This is the ponzu sauce we made earlier, and our star is this sushi rice, tofu sushi rice. So I actually I put it in the freezer and I chilled it for about 15 minutes. And of course, we cannot make sushi without our nori rice. I mean, our nori sheets, sorry, seaweed nori sheets. We're going to cut them into halves and I will show you how I put it together. Now we're gonna make a sauce. Traditionally, you would put some wasabi, but I don't have wasabi, so instead I'm going to make a pretty simple traditional ponzu sauce, or what I consider to be ponzu sauce. It's like a citrusy flavor soy sauce, lightened up soy sauce. So basically 1 tablespoon of tamari, 1 tablespoon of water, half a tablespoon of lemon juice. You're free to use fresh lemon. I'm just kind of cheating here, but fresh one definitely tastes better. So that's it. A very simple sauce. So to make this sushi rice, tofu sushi rice that is, we're going to start toasting some of these tofu rice. The details and explanation of this tofu rice, I've already made another separate video which I'll link above or below in the description box. You can check that out. So I just added a little bit of oil and I have the heat on medium, and here's the shredded tofu rice that I showed. So usually when I make my tofu rice, I want it to be slightly golden. Toast it until it's slightly golden. But what we want here now is to resemble sushi rice. So I actually don't want it to get too golden. So what I want to do is just kind of touch it and make sure that it's pretty dry and pretty fluffy. And this takes a little bit of time, and it does take somewhat of a constant stirring or stir every couple minutes to make sure that the tofu rice doesn't clump up. We really want a fluffy texture here. So I think this is just right. I think maybe a minute more or 2 minutes more, it's going to turn golden, which here I want to keep my rice flour as fluffy and white as possible. My tofu rice, usually it's kind of a texture of like a long grain basmati rice, you know, long and fluffy. But sushi rice, the difference is that it's short grain East Asian rice. They are much more sticky. And with the sushi, the stickiness of the rice is important so that the sushi will stay intact and the rice will stay intact while you're cooking it. So that stickiness is something that's lacking in this sushi, in this tofu rice. So what I end up doing is I put in, this is 2 pieces of pressed tofu. So if you have yeah, anyway, so 2 pieces pressed tofu, and I put 1 ounce of cream cheese. So right now I have the stove off. I don't want to completely melt the cream cheese. I want it to be just pliable enough so that it can be incorporated with my tofu rice. So the stickiness really for this recipe comes from the cream cheese. Cream cheese is not a new thing in Western sushi. And the good thing about it is that it's a familiar flavor in Western sushi, and it provides that nice sticky texture, and the color is white also. So it kind of goes with that sushi rice theme. So now you can see that my cream cheese is softened up. I'm just keep folding it. I don't want to mush up my rice either. So I just kind of press and fold. And at this point, I think the cream cheese is soft enough that I'm actually going to transfer it into a small bowl and continue to fold in the bowl, and that will make it a little bit easier to fold. So I'm just putting this back. So again, this is 2 pieces of pressed tofu to 1 ounce cream cheese. The proportion is important because you don't want the cream cheese to be too much. We're not making a cheesecake, so it shouldn't be. I don't want the cream cheese to be super visible. I just want it to coat and incorporate into the rice. Tofu rice, and so that I can keep folding them so that, you know, the cream cheese is very evenly distributed in the tofu rice, but it's not enough that it become goopy or that the flavor become overpowering. If you notice, most sushi are eaten with the rice cooled. So I'm going to pop it into the refrigerator for maybe about like 15-20 minutes to let it cool down a little bit. And so when you get the sushi nori sheets, they're in these like sushi squares. What you want to do is cut it in half. You'll see, I don't know if you can see, but there's these grain. So just kind of cut along the grain, fold it in half, and cut it in half. You'll notice that the texture is different on both sides. So you have this shiny side, hope you can see it, this shiny smooth side, and then you have this grainy textured side. So what you want to do is when you roll the sushi, you want the grainy side on the inside. So you put the rice on the grainy side. This provides a little bit of traction to keep everything in place. And the outside, once you rolled it up, the outside is a shiny side, so it's pretty. Now, how to make temaki sushi. So it's almost like a cone. Basically, like make a sushi cone or a seaweed cone. You don't have to put fish in your temaki roll if you don't want to. This is also called a hand roll because I think they could do it in one hand, but I don't have that ability. So now this is very important. I've seen, you know, keto sushi made with just cream cheese. Well, that is okay, but the texture gets very mushy, and the texture of grainy rice is lost in those cream cheese only base. So this is really nice because the pressed tofu gives that almost like, you know, rice texture, and it still provides enough stickiness. It's just kind of like working with other sticky things. You want to wet your hand a little bit. I didn't, so it was getting really sticky and I was wondering why. So you want to grab a small bowl, roll it up into a bowl, maybe a little more. I would say if you want to measure it by teaspoon, maybe like about a teaspoon and a half. So you roll it up into a bowl. Make sure your hand is slightly wet, not dripping wet, because these nori sheets, once they get wet, the texture is not as pleasant. So now it's just kind of like, you know, with the actual sushi rice, I'm gonna press it around. What you want to do is kind of look at it as like 3 sections, and you want to make the rice into almost like a diamond shape. Just kind of like put it down along like 1/3 line and then like spread it around like that. You'll see it kind of rolls into a diamond shape just as your finger do this like windshield wiper motion. Kind of goes into this diamond shape. You want to leave a little bit of corner, or it doesn't matter. And for the filling, it really doesn't matter. It's just like whatever you want to put in there. So yeah, so for me, I'm going to put down my base, which is some avocado and maybe 3 slices of the smoked salmon. And you try to like push things to the top a little bit. That way when you roll it up, they stick out at the top. It's really pretty. I used the like julienne grater peeler to make these long strips of carrots. So what you can do is you can actually like fold them a little bit so it becomes this pretty shape, or I'm attempting to make it into a pretty shape. Some green. If you find that the fish is a little bit hard for you to take, you can grab I cut some long slices of scallion, and these are really good for refreshing up the taste of fish. So you see everything is kind of staying on top of the rice along that 1/3 line. Now here's how you roll it into a cone. So you want to take this corner that's a little bit empty, hold everything in place, and then roll it up to the corner, kind of like a triangle. You see, fold it into a triangle. And then now you want to like sort of like watch the base, this little corner here, and roll everything along this pivot point. Now, how do you make the roll stay in place? Traditionally, they would take a piece of rice and, you know, place it at the very end of the nori sheet and it will kind of, and like mush it down to stick it. We don't have that. Our tofu is not going to stick like that. So I cut a little piece of cream cheese on the side here, and I just like mush a little tiny dot and then rub it along the corner, and then you can close it up, and that is a very cute looking sushi temaki hand roll. So we're gonna set this aside. Now if you feel, now that is a little bit plain, so let's make one using our ponzu sauce. It's pretty much the same thing, so remember the grain side up, and we'll grab a little handful. We'll dip our hand in the water, and you want to drip off the excess. Grab a little handful, like a little meatball size, of our sticky tofu rice, and just use your hand to spread it, your finger to kind of spread it off. Spread it like this. If it's not enough, you can always add more. Now what we want to do is again lay down our base. For me right now, again, you can lay down anything really, but for me, I feel like avocado with salmon is such a classic, and I feel like 3 pieces of this sliced salmon is perfect. So we'll lay that down. Now we want to do is, we've made this ponzu sauce, this very simple ponzu sauce, and you want to just take a tiny bit of it. And believe me, this is actually very flavorful against all these other ingredients. So you just want to lay down like a tiny bit, just kind of like spread a tiny bit. It won't run off too much because we have the fish and the sushi rice, tofu sushi rice, as kind of like a texture to hold on to the ponzu sauce. Down a few cucumber, and I feel like cucumber in sushi is also, you know, a very classic item. So, and it creates a nice crunch. And again, we will hold everything together, and then we'll take this corner, this far corner, roll up into a triangle like that, right across. Pinch the bottom so that everything is held down at this pivot point, kind of like in the middle point of the sushi, and then we'll just roll it as we go, and then take a dot, like literally a dot of this cream cheese, run it along the corner, and stick it on. There you go. There's one with the ponzu sauce. Alright. So again, this is something that's really healthy, delicious to eat with your family, and that you can do with your kids if they're off from school. So here you go. It's perfectly keto sushi temaki with my tofu sushi rice, made with tofu rice and a little bit of cream cheese. I hope you give this a try. This is certainly very delicious and healthy, and I personally find that this is the best texture replacement to real sushi rice. I hope you enjoy it and give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Talk to you later.